Hi everyone, Darren Carnell here. Welcome to part 25 of the painting tutorial for the man with no name statue that we're doing. Part 25. We are about to finish the head in this video, and then we move on to the body and the clothing and everything. So we'll get straight into it. It's just finishing details now on this. We've done the eyes, we've done pretty much everything else. We're just doing any final bits of shading and stuff that I look at and think, oh, that could be a little bit better. It's the usual, when I've done a thing, I usually just look over it and just end up sort of jumping here and there, faffing around with little details that I don't really need doing. You could leave them as they are, but I just see things and go, that could be a little bit darker, or that could be a bit more purple, or whatever it is. Just things that I feel would make me feel better about how a thing is. And that's what this is now. That's all we're doing today. Where are we? The hairs under the chin, I will do at some point. Already said this because I already did that. You already watched me do that. And afterwards, I then painted over it and pushed them into the background, so I would have the sort of shadowy effect that I wanted, and I will then go on top and paint extra hairs on top of that. But I will do that off camera because you don't need to see that again, because you've watched me do that for an hour already. It's going to be exactly the same thing. But all this stuff now is shadows under eyes and excuse me. I'm tired. I've been working a lot, I'm tired, I need some time off, but that's not happening yet, so just ignore all of this. Okay, let's do this. What was I doing? Oh yeah, let's bring the camera in. That helps when you're making videos. Oh, hit the main camera with the arm of the other camera. Oh, everything's going wrong. Right, let's see where we are. That's probably about right for what I'm doing, because we're just doing rough details, so that might actually work. So if I'm painting things and I'm going blah 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 blah, if I bring things closer, I'll tell you what, let's bring it a bit that way. I'll do. Okay, so why did I just put that down? What am I doing first? Oh yeah, I wanted to add some shadows. I mean, we've got shadows, but I wanted to add some extra shadows. Oh, hang on, me in the corner. Hello. Wanted to make it a little bit darker under his eyes. So, I mean, this is just quick stuff that we're doing for now. Let's get some umber. Let's get a normal brush. One like that will do. Let's get some umber on the palette and chuck some thinner on there. So it's just thin down, watery stuff, just so I can chuck some darker colour. I don't want this to be too watery because it'll just run everywhere. Let's just get a bit in there, because the surface tension can pull it along a little bit, but I just don't want it to go everywhere uncontrollably. That's actually quite good. That'll probably just dry nicely into the corners. See, I said that was easy. Okay, so next I want to see what I do want to do. Hang on, I'm just trying to put that to one side, but so it doesn't fall over, because I don't want that water running. Let's get some tanned flesh. There's a bit on the chin that I did where I shaded a bit in, and it's fine how it is, but I just want to get a little bit more skin colour in there. There's a bit here between this hairy bit and this hairy bit, and there's a bit of sort of dark purple bits here, and I just want to thin it out a bit. Oh, that's cool. Okay, let me just double check while I'm cleaning that brush that I've got everything going. Got the music on, the clock is ticking up, which means we are recording, and I can see the volume going up and down, so we've got the mic switched on. I have to check that each time because, and I know you hear me do that at the start of every video, and there's two reasons for that. Firstly, is I am massively forgetful. It's part of the sort of side effects of my epilepsy and the tablets that I take to control the epilepsy, is I have a really bad memory. So sometimes I think I've done a thing and I haven't. Also, on one of my previous videos, one of my earlier videos, I did a whole hour, I think, of painting and recording, and I was talking away and I was explaining everything to you all, and we did loads of work, and at the end of the hour I realised I hadn't pressed record on the thing. Actually, I've done two things wrong. There was one where I hadn't pressed record on the program that I used to record the videos, so nothing got filmed, and that was very frustrating. And there was another one where I had done that, but I forgot to turn the volume up on the microphone, so I was talking away and there was no audio for you to listen to, so I had to just put music on that. I think I can't remember whether I did music or did a separate voiceover. I can't remember what I did, but point is, I have to check every single time. Excuse me. Okay, so now I want to. So that umber is still drying in between the eyes, because there's a bit I want to do around the eyes. I want to add more shadow sort of right under the eyelid there. I want to make the shadow a bit darker and a bit more purple, and just neaten off some of the bits. And I then want to neaten off the edge on the bottom edge. Ooh. But I want to do that bit next, but I can't because that little bit of umber is still drying. So let's have a look at his lips. Now I've just got a bunch of photos here. Now in most of the pictures they are sort of as we've done them. They're just sort of skin colour but a bit more brown. But when you see other pictures that you suspect are a bit more accurate coloured, there is more purple in there, so I want to add some purple into it. So let us hum. Alright, let's get some deep red. Let's give it a shake, because it's shaky. Oh my god, I'm going crazy. Okay, that's good. Where are we? Can't even see anything. Right, now blue or blue-grey. I want to keep it quite pale, so let's do blue-grey. That'll do. So let's get some purple on the palette. Not purple, deep red. Let's get some blue. Yeah, let me show you what. So I'm taking the deep red, which is sort of that colour, put it on there, and then take some blue-grey, and we put it on, and it mixes into that sort of purple. But what I want to do is make that a bit darker, so I'm going to add a little bit more red back into it. And then I'm going to, I could use leather brown or chocolate brown. I'm going to do a tiny little bit of chocolate brown, but not much. I don't think I got any on the brush then. There you go. A little bit more brown. Might need to be leather brown instead of chocolate brown. Let's see. It's not too bad. Tell you what, I'll do that, and then maybe I'll put a leather brown wash over the top of it when it's dry. That's quite good. So let me thin that down a little bit more, because I just want to wash over the colour that's already there. I don't want to be painting any fresh new. Yeah, I'm not completely blanking out what's been done before. I just want to add a bit of purple to it. So it's sort of in the middle. I don't want it to come too far down. I don't want it to completely fill up the shape of the lips. I just want some purple-ish detail to it. That's actually quite good. That I like how that is looking. I may not need to do brown over the top of that. And then one more bit again on the bottom lip. Ooh, that is sort of perfect. I like that a lot. Let me jump in. Where's my... I haven't got up my camera settings panel that lets me change focus. Okay, hang on. It's because I had to restart the computer and I didn't. I have to open that up every time and I forgot to. Let's zoom in a bit more, but also let's do the focus. Now it's more subtle, where it looks a little bit more purple to me than it does there, but it's taken away some of the orangey brown that it had. Where's the focus? About there. So those lips, I am liking those now. Now what I want to do, and there's only so much that this is going to work, but I'm going to do a little bit just in case it does, you know, at least something. On his lips, these bits where they bump up, sort of on the outside upper corners, they sort of exist on him, but they are more exaggerated here. The bump should be sort of a little bit further in, and this bit should be a bit more smoothed out. So what I'm going to do is take some pale skin colour, and I've already been doing it in just as I've been painting the lips. Instead of having the browny purpley red colour of the lips painted right up to that edge, what I'm going to do, and I've already avoided doing that, I've kept more of the colour in the centre. I'm going to take some of the outside skin colour and dry brush some of that colour around that edge to give the effect a bit, where it can, of bringing the skin colour, the face colour, a bit down onto the lips there. And that will, where the light allows, because sometimes it will just be in shadow and there's nothing you can do, because there's only so much you can do to alter a sculpt when you're painting, but in certain lighting conditions you can do that. So depending on where the light's coming from and how a person's looking at it, it will give the effect of there just being softer edges in those corners, which will help from certain angles in certain lighting conditions, and that will do. That's what I want to do. And I'm not saying the sculpt is bad. It's, you know, it looks, you can tell. You look at that, you know who it is. So it's a good sculpt. It's just, I find, maybe it's just for me, maybe you all disagree, but those upwards bits in the corners for me are just a bit too big and a bit too far out for how they should be. I just feel they should be a bit softer and a bit further in. And sometimes, in fact, let me change brushes. It's going to get a slightly wider brush, a slightly softer brush, probably one of my old ones. Sometimes when I'm painting, in fact, it's sort of every time, it's pretty much what I'm hired to do. It's why people come to me. I am in one way or another trying to make the sculpt that I've been given look better. Now that could be because it's a great sculpt that's just been given a bad paint job, so my job is to make the paint job better, and in doing so make the sculpt look better. But sometimes I'm given things where they are pretty terrible sculpts. This isn't one of those, I'm not talking about this one, but I have been given ones where the sculpt is just rough and terrible and it doesn't look like the person it's supposed to. And I'm not giving it a resculpt, but I am, through the painting work, trying to make the sculpt look better. And you use various tricks for that, and there's always a certain amount where you can be successful in doing that. You can make good sculpts look better, you can make bad sculpts look, you know, acceptable. You can always improve something somehow. But there is always a limit that you can go to, because whilst in some cases you can change the appearance of a sculpt, sometimes the sculpt is so obviously what it is, you can't really change it. And it's what I do in pretty much all cases, just for sometimes different reasons. So in this case, I'm just painting this whole statue is really good. Now there are bits on it that I feel are perhaps not as neat as they could be, or a little bit more rough or something. But that's my opinion, and I'm not always right. But while I am the one who's painting it, if I see something and I think, oh, I think that bit could be a bit softer, or that edge could be a bit sharper, or whatever, then I will do what I can to soften those bits up. Now, what I'm doing here is what I was just saying, just adding a bit of skin colour. Just dry brush there, just very subtly. See, you look at it like that and it still looks exactly the same. But if you look at it that way, maybe you can just see sort of on that edge, it's just making it ever so slightly softer. And that just means that from certain angles, maybe it'll look a little bit more how, if I could click a magic wand and make it how I would choose to do it if I was doing it, which I haven't. So, oh my god, my throat. That's my throat's way of telling me to stop talking. Okay, I like that. That's good. I like the way those lips are. I like the colour of those lips. I like the extra bit of shading under his eyes there. Now that's mostly dry now, that umber that I put under there. Where are we? Under there. A little bit darker, which will just help with the scowly shadows. Now this bit has been left dark already, but I just want to add a bit more purple in there and just neaten it up a little bit. So let's get some, excuse me. It would appear that I am not allowed to sip coffee and talk at the same time without getting lots of burps. Okay, so I'm taking that purple colour that we had and I'm mixing some umber into it. That actually might work as it is. So I'm just chucking some water on there. Let's get rid of that brush. Let's go back to a fairly small brush. Let's go back to the one we were using before. Okay. Where's the focus? So anywhere here. I'm just adding some purple onto the dark shadowy bits that we've already got. Now then, I did put the tan flesh away because I thought I was done with it, but I've just seen a little bit, and it's a tiny thing where on the eyelid the blend between the skin colour of the eyelid and the shadow underneath wasn't as neat as it could have been, and it might be that when I was painting I accidentally touched the brush on a, I don't know, you know, touched a bit of dark colour on the outside where it didn't want to be. Tiny detail that you wouldn't have been able to see, but I just saw it. So I'm like, okay, let's just neaten that up a little bit. Now you actually get away with quite a lot on this statue because he looks so dirty and grubby in all of the pictures, in all of the films, that you can actually get away with quite a bit of sort of dirty, messy appearance without it looking wrong. Which, when you get a piece that's like that, it can be helpful, but you don't want to take advantage of it too much because you still want it to be like how you want it to be. So some pieces sort of that are deliberately supposed to be a bit dirty and messy are, I'm going to say it, not easier, but you don't have to worry as much about being precise with things on some pieces. Like if you're painting a flawlessly skinned female character with perfect makeup and smooth skin, you sort of have to be really spot on and careful in how you do that. If you're doing a character perhaps like this, or let's say Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, someone who lives in the forest and sleeps in mud, you don't have to be as careful as long as you do it within, you know, the boundaries that you've set of this is how this character has to look. Then if you have an accident when you're painting, if that falls within the boundaries of what you would deliberately paint anyway, then happy accidents, and they do happen and they do exist and they are useful. In fact, the way that I work, I usually try and paint in such a way that allows for the occasional occurrence deliberately, even though it's contradiction in terms, of happy accidents. Because sometimes if you do a thing, it's how I paint. When you watch me paint and I describe that I'm doing something to try and look quite random, whether that is when I'm flicking paint on a skin, or if I'm randomly dabbing things on and then dabbing things off with my finger, so I don't have that much control sort of precisely, but I know roughly where it is. Things like that are my way of designing in deliberate happy accidents, because making things, when you try and paint in like if you were painting in every microscopic detail with the tiniest brush, and that's all you did, and you built up the whole thing of that, it would be wonderful and it'd look lovely. But sometimes you can't think of a way to do something as good as a random accident can. Things can just be random in such a way where you go, oh, I never would have done it like that. And as long as you do it in a controlled way, where you're not splodging paint over things and ruining stuff, if it's controlled but you're allowing happy accidents to happen, they can make things better. So it's definitely a good thing to try and do if you can. So I do, but only if it's controlled. Right, what was I doing next? Did the lips, did the shading under the eyes. Oh, his lower eyelid. I was going to I wanted to neaten up the edge and make them a little bit more pinky purple, but there was one bit that I wanted to do, and I'm going to have to change. Excuse me for a second. I'm just going to stand up. I need to grab something. I'm over here, and you can still hear me. I'm looking through my... There we go, coming back now. I was looking through my storage drawers that I have over there. Hang on, let me take this camera. Right, so all of these things, all these drawers, where I keep random things. Let's get this out the way for a sec, so you can see me. Hi. And I keep things like glue and my sculpting materials or my painting materials when I was switching between sculpting and painting. I would have a drawer of each, and I would pull the drawer out of sculpting tools and do my sculpting, and then put them away and pull out the drawer of painting tools. Now I'm mostly painting, so this pretty much stays on my desk all the time now, but it used to be swapped over, and that's where it was, and things like that. And I've got drawers full of bits of plastic and old models and just things that may be useful at some point in the future. So I keep all that over there. Also, there's this little plastic box where I have craft knife blades. There you go. It was a full box. It's almost run out now. Now the reason why I had to get that is because the blade on this is pretty much blunt now, and I need it to be super sharp for the thing that I'm about to do, which you will see because I'm about to show you. So I'm just taking that old blade, putting it back in the foil protective thing so I can get rid of it without risk of stabbiness. I need to buy a whole new load of these. Right. There you go. New blade, back on. I did have some different sizes as well, and I've ran out of all the bigger ones. I've only got these little tiny ones now, which are really useful. Sometimes it's good having slightly longer ones depending on what you're using them for. Let me pull this back down. Now, this was a really subtle thing, but it was something that I noticed, and I thought, oh, I want to get rid of that. Right, you can only see it when it's upside down. Let me try and bring this down and bring the focus up. On, where are we? Hello. On this eye, you can't really see from this angle. I mean, you can see that the eyes aren't perfectly smooth spheres, but that's fine. I'll gloss that, that'll be fine. But it looks like a normal edge. When I turn it sideways, you can see, oh, there's a bit of a, the edge isn't sort of, it's flat there and it bumps up a little bit there, but still quite flat. And if we turn it upside down, so this is, we're changing how we can see it because of where the light source is. You can see there's a bit there, a little bump that sticks out, and I only saw it when I was holding it upside down, and you only see it when the light is a certain way, and you don't see it when the head is like that. So nobody ever would see that, but I saw it and it annoyed me, so I wanted to get a super sharp blade and just cut off that little bit that's sticking out. But the problem is I needed a super sharp blade because I needed to not damage the eye paint, but I just needed to remove that bump. Now you can see the edge where the sculpt is. That's basically the shape of the sculpt there. But again, when it's that way, you don't really see it, so it's fine. And I'm about to make that darker anyway, those edges by painting them a bit more purpley red, as eyes should be. But I just wanted to get rid of that bump because it was annoying me and I could see it upside down, lit up. But if I didn't use a sharp blade, then I would have tried to cut it away and I would have had to have applied more pressure and I would have risked scraping off the eye paint or something. So I wanted a brand new super sharp blade and I could just sort of gently go and take it off nice and careful without worrying. Okay, so what do we do next? Let's see. Let me get one of my old brushes for mixing paint with. Where's that white one gone? There you go, that'll do. Let me bring this focus back down. Okay, so old brush. Now his eyes, let's see. So they're skin colour, but they're a bit pink and they're a bit purple and they're a bit brown. Okay, let me just look at this a second. Right, so I'm going to get some deep red out, I'm going to get some bright red out. Some blue-grey maybe. I'm getting all these colours out. I'm not going to use them all. It's just because I don't know what colours I'm going to use. So I'm just getting all of them out and I will mix it up and decide what I want to do. I'm going to get some red. I'm actually going to mix the red into the purpley stuff that we had from before, where I had some purple that we used earlier on and then I mixed some umber into it. So I'm just going to add some bright red into that to lighten it up a little bit. And chuck some tanned flesh into that. Oh, you can't really see what I'm doing there, can you? Oh my god, super close, almost accident. I just saw over to the side. Oh my god, that was close. I've got this piece of sponge over on the side of my desk that I've had the head sitting on just because it's soft and spongy and it, you know, reduces the chance of damage. And I noticed there was some red paint on there. And I was like, oh my god, where's that red paint come from? And I looked on my hand and I had red paint, clearly from taking the lid off that red paint on there. I'm also, at the same time, there's also red paint on there, and I'm also holding the head, and my heart sank because I thought, oh my god, I've smudged red paint all over the front of the face and I've ruined it. And I haven't. Oh my god. Oh, there you go. That's the worst I've done. A little bit underneath. That was close. Oh my god. Oh, the heart attack. That has happened once or twice to me over the years where I've done something and thought, oh my god, I've ruined it. And one of them I was recording. It's actually a series that I've got on YouTube when I painted Captain Kirk head, the new Chris Pine version. And there's a set of videos on there, like the tutorials that I do now, where I painted a head from start to finish. But I wasn't talking. I was just, when I was filming it, I was listening to my own music. So when I put the videos up, I just put YouTube random music on top, dance music or orchestral music or whatever. So it was just me painting in silence. And on one of those videos, while I was painting it and I had the head in my hand, I think I was doing eyebrows or something, I had dark brown on the brush and I just smudged dark brown like right across his face and I had a heart attack and sort of quickly threw the brush down, grabbed another brush, chucked a load of water on it and tried to wash it all off like instantly as quick as I could, and thankfully I managed to get it all off. But oh my god, when things like that happen, you crap yourself. Okay, so Now that I've got rid of all the paint and we know we're okay, I can carry on what I was doing. Flipping heck. Don't do that, Darren. So, I was about to show you the colour I'm mixing. I'm just sort of mixing up a skin coloured, pinky, purpley thing. I want to chuck some brown into it. I'm sort of making this up as I go along because I'm not entirely sure the best way that I'm going to go about this. Let me have a look. I'm terrified of picking the head up now because I've got this sort of built-in fear now that I've got skin on my hand even if I haven't. Okay. That actually might work for now. Let me chuck a tiny little bit of deep red onto it and then we'll use that. So I'm going to thin that down a little bit more. Right. My heart's still pounding. Okay, let me get a small brush. How small does it need to be? Small, small. Burp, burp. Right, that'll do. Oh my god. Burpy, burpy. Burpy, burpy, burpy. Alright, little brush. Get some of that colour. Bring it to a point. Now then, if I hold that there, where's the focus? That's about right. So, I just want to... I'm going to go over this with more dark shadow. But I just want to put the base layer down. Now I've got to be super careful here because I have not varnished this head at any stage. And I've not varnished the eyes, so if any of this gets smudged on the eyes, they are probably ruined, and I do not want to ruin them because they took a long time to get right. Okay, that's quite good. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Get some paint, bring it to a point. Need a bit more paint. So I know I'm off camera for a sec, but I'm just looking into the corners of the eyes, which is a bit that I could never sort of look at while I'm holding it under the camera. I just want to make sure I've got it exactly where I wanted it to be. Okay, that's good. So I'm just going to throw some water down on the palette so I can get the same colour but like more thinned down. So we've got the bits that I've just done, which was neatening up those lower, yeah, you can see it better on that one, that lower eyelid there, just giving that a sharper edge but in a darker colour. And I've taken that darker colour, mixed it down, watered it down, so I can just make the entire upper part of his lower eyelid more of that colour, sort of the eyelid equivalent of being bloodshot. That is actually quite good. I'm going to get a tiny bit of bright red because I don't want it to be purple, I just want it to be sort of more fresh blood sort of colour, which is that bright red. I'm just going to add a little bit of that over the top edge. Yeah, that's good. I like that. It's hard to show you without it being in shadow. Let me see if I can tilt the camera down that way. Oh, hang on, stop shaking. So we neatened up the edge with that colour, and then we brought it down with a washed, thinned down version of that colour over the edge onto the lid, and then I went over that with a thin wash of bright red just to give it a bit more variation that I wanted. And yeah, I like that. That's good. Yep, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay. Oh, I wanted to get some shadow. Thanks for reminding me. In the back here, the corner of his ears, let me drop the focus back down and let me put that back up there. Just wanted to darken these edges a little bit. I just saw that red, which is now completely dry, under there, which has actually got my fingerprint in it. That's hilarious. It's got my fingerprint on it. I just saw that out of the corner of my eye and once again crapped my pants because I thought I'd done it again. Oh. Fun times. Okay, so shadows up in there. Bring that down here and do shadows up in there and just blend them down. Now I'm going to take that colour, I'm going to add some more water into it. And I'm going to paint a washed down version of that colour sort of along all the edges where the hair meets the skin, because I just want to darken and purple up a bit those edges to create like darker skin coloured shadows, I suppose is a way of saying it. Let me get that brush with some water on it so I can just pull it down and blend it down, and then do it with my fingers, and then do the same here. Keep the paint wet, blend it down, and then just go wipe it all off. And let's take that and drop it back up just in the edges now. That's quite good. Just a subtle edge to the colour, so it's not pale skin going right up to the hairline. Now, it might not be in all cases, as you look at real people in the world, 100% accurate. Sometimes you will see people and it will just be pale skin that goes right up to the hairline. But in most cases, and it's just a thing that I do and I prefer how it looks, it just adds a little bit of enough of a subtle shadow, so when you look at it you feel like the light source is coming from above it, like in the real world. And it's one of those things that when you put it on, in most cases you don't notice, but it helps your eye, just it sort of grounds the statue or the figure in the real world as if there was light coming from above it or whatever. And I do the same. It's like when I paint shadows under eyelids, or if there's a top hairline, I usually do the same thing up here, and I've always done it and it always looks good. So that's what that is, just a little bit of subtle edge. Now what I'm going to do, I've just noticed I haven't done yet. Do I do it now or do I do it when I'm doing the beardy things? Let me try and find a... I want to look at the pictures I've got, because all the pictures I've got up on my screen at the moment. In fact, let me jump to the main camera just so you're not looking at a desk. Oh, I was going to swing my microphone out the way then, but then you wouldn't be able to hear me. Most of the pictures I've got up on my screen at the moment have been sort of close-ups of eyes or his mouth or whatever. And I just want to have a look if I can get a shot of the back of his head or the side of his head. I want to see how his back hairline looks, how it sits, how neat it is, how messy it is. Because I know I've painted the sculpt to the shape of the sculpt, but as we know, I pretty much always get hired so I can do more than what's there. I don't... Oh, hang on, is that one? Ooh, there's one. Okay. I mean, it's pretty much accurate enough. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. Because I want this video to be done and to have the head completed, apart from the bottom beard bit, which I'm doing off camera. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If I jump back to the desk cam, right, let me bring this down and bring the focus up a little bit. Where's the focus? Okay, there. So the shape of the hairline, you can see it there. There's the sculpted shape of the hairline, and I've painted the hair to the shape of the sculpted hairline. But if you look in close here, you can see that even though the sculpted lines sort of fade out into the neck, and they, I mean, in this case there's actually quite a hard edge here, so that's, you can paint up to that. But all these bits where it's a bit more subtle, it just doesn't quite. Sculpting heads can be a weird thing, because sometimes they use the sculpted lines, which are in reality the spaces between things. So if it's a beard, those sculpted lines would be where there is no hair. But what they sometimes use when they are sculpting is use the sculpted lines, which they know will soak up the dark paint, to pretend to be the hairs, even though they are inverse. They are, you know, there's nothing there. And sometimes they use sculpted lines to create the shape of actual hair. Now in this case it just sort of fades out. So what I want to do, but I don't need to do it too neatly because it's pretty much okay as it is. And it's at the back, and it's underneath, and it's going to be in shadow. But I'm me, so I can't let things just be, can I? So what I'm going to do is mix some colour that roughly matches that colour of the hair at the back. And I'm just going to paint a few individual. There's that bloody paint again. Did I get any on me? Get off. Get paint on me. Go away. I'm going to paint a few individual hairs sort of coming down beyond that sculpted line, just to give the impression of more detail. And also, oh my god, I'm getting paint everywhere. Flipping heck. Probably because I'm tired. Okay. I do love how grubby he looks. He looks like he's been out in the sun for hours. I really like that. Okay. So this colour is a sort of chocolate brown mixed with umber. Okay. I mean, it's actually multiple layers, so it's not quite as simple as just making a colour, because there's the colour of the hair, there's the colour of the shadows, there's the colour of the highlights, and even though it's all essentially just brown, there are different layers on there. But I just want to get a hair colour, which I think the way to create an average of that, it's going to be chocolate brown and umber, I think. So let's just grab a bit of that, some chocolate brown, throw it on the palette. Let's get some umber, throw that on the palette. Right, let's thin it down. Actually need to make that darker. Ooh, might be too much, but let's have a look. Okay, so let's thin that down a bit more. Right, get rid of that brush. Teeny tiny brush. I'll try this one. Right. I'm amazed in all this handling of this head that I've not snapped off that cigar. Absolutely astounded. Well done, Darren. Okay, so let me just try this brush. I'm still getting used to these new brushes. Okay, so let me see. Let me zoom up and just show you what I'm doing. So see instead of just that line, I'm just, where it allows, because some bits it needs to be a solid line, like that bit coming up. I can't fade hers onto that. It suits being a solid line better. But some bits where the sculpt just gently goes onto the neck and there's no break, it needs something to just look like a bit of hair. Just occasional ones, done some here, done some there. There's going to be some solid lines here, just a few ones flicking out. I'm just doing that to make it look like it's actual hair and not just a bunch of sculpted clay. Like these bits now, I'm just filling in because there's a little bit of the skin colour showing through, but all the other bits, whoa. So bits like this, I'm just making sure that the colour goes to the edge as it's supposed to, and then on any bits where there's a gentle gradient from the hair to the neck, and there's a couple of bits coming up here which I will, let's see if I can do this a bit closer. Where are we? Hang on, there's a bit I just missed that was underneath that needs filling in. Okay, so I'm just filling in these edges, and there's one bit there that we can have going over. Some more edges to fill up to. And here's another couple of gently faded out bits that I can just You know, so it's just subtle, but where the sculpt just sort of didn't have a defined edge to his hair, I've just painted in a few hairs and it just breaks it up a little bit better, sort of here, and then we've got some solid lines here and a few extra loose bits. It just breaks it up a bit better, so that's good. That's how it should be. And while I've got that colour, I'm just looking at some bits where I'm thinking, oh, that edge could be neater, or, you know, the usual thing that I do. I get a colour and I do a thing, and then I'm like, ooh, I could do a bit there. Cool. I'm just going to get a little bit of chocolate brown by itself with no umber. Just want to lighten up one of the edges here. Actually, I'm going to get some leather brown last thing, because we're up to 1 hour and 10 minutes. But I've been trying to get this done and then we can move on. So I just want to take some leather brown and just lighten up, just to fade in that edge a little bit more here. And I'm going to take some skin colour and do the same thing in reverse, just to smooth up, because it feels like there should be individual hairs going over it, but I can't really do that because it's got a hard sculpted edge. So I'm just trying to make it feel like it's got a naturally blended edge to it. Isn't always a easy thing to define, especially when you're trying to sort of explain what you're doing. Okay. So I'll clean that brush in a second. So got some rough edges there, rough edges, rough edges, rough edges. We've done all the shadows under the eyes, we've done the lips, we've added some different bits of shadows dotted around behind the ears, did a bit there, softened the lips up a little bit as well as making the lips a bit more accurate colour, added a bit of extra correct skin colour in between those bits where they'd gone a little bit dark while I was doing it. Almost, where is it? Almost splodged blood red paint all over his face. Ooh, excuse me. Right. I think that's done now. Apart from that bit, which I will do off camera, just because it's a repeat of what you've already seen. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, I always maintain the right, as is my right being the artist, to look at something later on that I have said is finished and go, ooh, I want to do that bit to it. It often happens. I did it a couple of times to that head. So I may, when I get to the end of the project, look at that head and go, oh, I can see a thing to make it better. And we'll do it if that's the case. That's fine. But I think for now, the head is done. What I will do when it's dry is I will get it protected, seeing as we've spent a long time painting it. I can't do any of the varnish steps that I do. I can't really film them because I don't do them in here. I would love to do them in here, but this room isn't set up to have quite strong smelling rattle can varnish things sprayed everywhere, because the clouds of gas would just go everywhere. And if it was done from an airbrush, maybe, but I don't have an airbrush. I use shaky cans, and I don't want to get varnish and stuff all over my nice things. So what I do is I take any commission that I'm working on, when I've finished painting it, I take it, and I've done it recently to a few other ones, take it to the garden, get the gloss varnish that I use, which is like the protecting layer, shake up the can for ages to make sure that it's properly mixed, give it a thin coat of that, let that dry, and then when I'm done with that and that's dry and I'm ready to finish, do the same but with a matte varnish, a dull coat. I usually use Testa's dull coat. I'm trying a different one at the moment on a few different commissions to see how it works. For some reason, Testa's dull coat lately has been not making things as matte as it used to be. I don't know if they've changed the formula, I'm not sure, but I get everything down as matte as they need to be to look like a human face. And so I do one lot out in the garden, spray it, let it dry, put like a plastic cup over its head so bits of dust or hairs don't stick to it. If they ever do, I clean them off. Let that dry, do the same with the matte varnish, and then go in at the end and gloss the eyes and put the lens of varnish over the irises to make it a super shiny little lens effect on the eye. So what I will do with this, once it's dry, I will take this out into the back garden and I will spray it with gloss varnish, and that is then protected, which means that if I am picking it up or if I accidentally spill paint on it or something, it's protected and it's easier to wipe off than when it's just the raw paint that you've been painting on. So had that red paint almost disaster happened, it would have been harder to get rid of that red paint. I would have been able to do it as long as I got to it quick enough, than if it was a shiny glossed varnished head, because that would have been easier to wipe off. So I will go and protect that as soon as possible, because he is now, apart from the chin bit, but I will do that, he is now done. And look at him, look how cool he looks. And his eyes are done, and the shadows are done. yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, I may look at it next week and go, oh, I want to do something to his cigar or whatever. That might happen. It might not. It might be done now. So I am going to finish this coffee and take him out into the garden and varnish him. But essentially for now on the head, we are done. We've still got the hat to do, but I'm doing that, or I'm classing that to be part of the clothing. So we are doing that with the body, which is, I mean, we've got to paint his hands as well. So we've got to paint his hands and make them match his face. And we'll do that. But that's, I mean, hands can be a pain to do because there's surprisingly more colouring and more variation that goes on hands than people initially think. But it won't take as long as the head. But so there's the hands, there's the gun, there's the holster, but the main part that we're going to go to next is the body. So from here down to waist level, the belt of his trousers essentially. And it's going to be quite interesting because you've got the sheepskin vest, you've got his blue and white stripy shirt, you've got his big throw over poncho thing, a lot of stuff going on. But before we got to that, we needed to finish the face, which we have now done. Finally. So I'm going to have the not much coffee that's left in my mug and then carry on. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to go because this is an hour and 20 minutes now. This should have been 2 videos probably, but I said I wanted to try and get the head done in the next video for you, and the head is now done in the next video for you. Okay, thanks for watching this video. I know it's been longer than usual. I appreciate you sticking around. If you fast forwarded through any of it, that's fine. I don't mind, as long as you get to see everything happen, and if there's anything you don't understand, ask me any questions. Even if it's something that I explained in the video and you didn't see it because you fast forwarded it, that's fine. Ask me the questions anyway. I'm here to help. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here. Unless you're here just to relax and watch a guy paint, that's fine too. Hello for all those people who just come here to watch me paint. So have a good day, or have a good weekend, or have a good week, whatever day of the week it is for you now. Have a good few days ahead, and I will see you in the next video, part 26, I think, and we will start on the big massive weighs a ton body, and I will develop some massive biceps just by holding the bloody thing, and we'll do some exciting stuff. Looking forward to this because it's going to be fun. There's a lot of detail to put on this body. Right, have a good day, week, month, life, whatever. I don't know what I'm saying anymore now. I'm going. Have a good time, folks. Look after yourselves, look after everyone else around you, and I will see you next time. Take care.